Hello guys and welcome to Wimbledon Unfiltered with me, Nick Kyrgios, presented by talkSPORT and Good Trouble. Today joining me again is my good friend Gordon Smart. How are you, mate?
World class, Nick Kyrgios. We're on day number 8, I think it is.
8 only?
Is it? Yeah, 2 to go. 2 to go.
9.
9, I can't count. Yeah, we're on day 9. So we've not got a long to go until the weekend, but it's interesting to feel how the mood changes around Wimbledon heading into this weekend. You've been there. You know what it smells like in the Sistine Chapel, right?
Yep.
How different is that for a player as things settle down?
Yeah, you definitely know when the business end of the tournament's coming. You know, you start with 128 players, and then the cafeteria's a little bit quiet, the change room's quiet, then you only see, 3 other people there in the semi-finals, and it's like, okay, that's when the pressure really starts.
Yeah.
You know, especially for me when I was in the final, just seeing me and Novak left, I was like, wow, this is, every single decision I've ever made in my life, gym session, night out, training session, good meal I've chosen was all for that moment. So the pressure is immense.
How difficult is it to preserve energy towards the end of the tournament?
Yeah, it's hard. You're pretty much full time, your anxiety's up, the pressure, the media is one thing, especially some of these older players, this older generation doesn't understand, like, you can't really run away from it. Away from the tennis courts, you're on your phone, Instagram, Twitter, X, all these, social media outlets are showing you, what could be, and or like if you win, what the prize is, and if you lose, the expectations, and it's hard because you can't run away from it, and that's where I struggled a lot, really, because it was. Yeah, that's all I could think about. I couldn't get away from it.
It's interesting. You're 30 years old, so your entire career has had social media.
Yeah.
Probably from MySpace onwards.
Yeah,
right?
literally, yeah.
Yeah, so do you ever wonder what it would have been like to play in the Sampras era, where all you had to worry about was terrestrial TV interview, play your tennis, have your chicken and beans, go to bed?
Yeah, well, look, if I'm having nights like I am now with social media, I could only imagine what nights I would have had without social media.
Yeah.
And the anxiety of, someone recording me or something. Yeah. But I wish I played in that era, honestly. Because I feel like, now even when the draw comes out, I don't really personally like to know who I'm playing or that section of the draw. I just like to go out there and play. But now it's like, you open up my phone, it's like, oh, you're playing this person. If you win, you're playing this person. This is your seed. And it's like, Novak's in your draw. I'm just like, I can't run away from it. And I don't, it's not really enjoyable.
There's only really one story today, and she's part of your family, your tennis family. Sabalenka's gone out. Run us through what's happened there.
Yeah, look, I mean, the last couple of rounds, she hasn't been playing great. She was really, I wouldn't say lucky to get through Siegman, the 37-year-old veteran, but in saying that, I don't think Sabalenka was near her best tennis this week at all. So, Anna Samova is someone that, she was, pretty much since she came on the scene, she's been expected to win Grand Slams. She's only 23 years old. And she already took some time away from the sport dealing with her mental health. So to see her finally back on track, she was ranked 400, I think, almost a year ago, and now back in the top 10 Grand Slam finals. So she always had the ability, and to see that she's actually put that and made a Grand Slam final is good. But again, Sabalenka she'll be, feeling pretty average about her performance. But again, another Wimbledon semi-final to add to the resume is not, too bad. I think ultimately she should be super proud with herself, but this one's going to hurt her a bit because I think she probably won't have a better chance to win Wimbledon.
How much of tennis is managing disappointment, Nick? Because there's a lot of losing, right?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I think I was pretty good with that throughout my career, to be honest, because you're losing pretty much every week. Unless you're one of these top guys or top female players, you're losing every single week, and there's another tournament, in a week's time. So there's so much tennis to be played, you can't be discouraged by 1 week. And to be fair, you're only going to be remembered by the Grand Slams at the end of the day. So I understand if Sabalenka maybe wants like a month off and just get ready for US Open.
How much of a difference does it make having the brackets and the number after your name, right? If you're seeded for a tournament, does it add a pressure, or for the top players, doesn't matter, it's academic?
Well, I mean, you are protected. You're protected until the 3rd or 4th round. So it's good to be seeded. It means you're playing consistent tennis. I mean, I made the Wimbledon final unseeded. So, I mean, I was one of those players in my career where it didn't really matter whether I was seeded or not. But, Sabalenka's going to, go from this tournament with some, another semi-final, another, few $100,000 in the pocket. Like, it's something to build off. And also, I mean, as I said, I think if she gets through today, she probably wins the whole thing. So it is hard.
You told me a brilliant story about managing disappointment, and I hope you can share it. Would you tell us what you did when you lost out in a big game to was it Djokovic?
No, it was to Nadal.
Nadal, sorry.
Yeah, he beat me in the final of Beijing. and he destroyed me. Like I was having a really good week.
Yeah.
Finals of Beijing, pretty big tournament. I get destroyed by Nadal. I'm having a couple of wines that night, having a couple of drinks with my boys, and then I was like, you know what, this guy just destroyed me. He probably earned like over $1 million that week. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put all of my room service. I was actually in the hotel restaurant. I just put it on Nadal's room, and I just signed it as Nadal. And the waitress had no idea. So to this day, I'm sorry, Rafa, if you got this outstanding couple grand bill from me. That was, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry at all. You've earned way too much cash in your career. So.
Wait till you get the bill from my Premier Inn this week.
But yeah, I've actually never told anyone that. But yeah, I mean,
he doesn't have a clue.
He has no idea. I mean, we don't. Well, to be honest, me and Nadal didn't speak much in our career. Pretty much not at all, really.
I think there's enough of that in the game. Now, again, we've talked about this a fair bit, but looking back at that generation, we talked about the Lendos, Ivanisevic, Stick, all of those boys, Sampras, Boris Becker. You felt like there were some personalities. Agassi, great characters.
Yeah.
And you suggest there might be a little bit of needle back then, but is that gone from the game?
I think it is. As I said, like those guys for sure. I don't think they genuinely liked each other. Like they had respect for each other and they played against each other and they competed. But I just don't believe that all these players like each other, and I don't like it how they mask it on the court. For me and Rafa, for instance, would never have been seen, hanging out or doing anything nice for each other on the court, or like, I feel like that's sport. That's the rivalries that we all love, and that's why we watch it. That's why we watch sport. And I think in today's day and age, there's too many pat on the backs, too many handshakes, picking up rackets for people that are falling over. Like, I don't know if I believe in that side of the sport. Like, yes, there's respect. You shake each other's hand at the end of the match. But between those lines, like, I want to kill you, to be honest. Like, I don't care what it takes to win. And yeah, that's one guy that I felt, me and Rafa, we hated each other, to be honest. And like, there's no shame in saying that.
Nah.
But again, like, he's one of the greatest of all time. I'm not. He had a better career, but to say that, we competed at the highest level together, it's pretty cool.
I could tell you responded to John Terry yesterday when he said that, especially in paddle, where he was saying that competitive spirit from his football career has now gone into his paddle career.
100%.
I mean, what are you going to be like when paddle takes more of a part in your life and your heads?
I'm super competitive at anything, and it's actually like affected some of my friendships, some of my relationships.
Yeah.
Even we have like this thing back home where we play with family, and I nearly had a fist fight with my brother. Like the lines do get blurred with me when I compete, and I just want to win so bad, and like I turn into a different person, to be honest. Like when we're chatting here or having a couple of beers, like I'm actually quite nice, but then as soon as we compete at something, I just turn into an absolute.
I had my 15-year-old son in here yesterday, and it's interesting you mentioned that, because can you imagine what your relationship will be like when you have a child at some point and that competitive spirit, father-son relationship kicks in?
Yeah, I'm going to be very hard on him.
Yeah.
Also because I know that, anything great that's come in my life has come from my competitive spirit and, how that competitiveness. Like my dad, taught me how to play tennis.
Did he push you hard?
He pushed me very hard. Yeah, and it was in a good way. Both my parents pushed me extremely hard on the tennis court. And yeah, when I lost, I was scared to come home. Like, I knew that they'd be disappointed. I knew that, like, I wouldn't be treated as... I mean, I don't know if this is a good thing, but, like, it's made me who I am today, and I'm going to be extremely hard on my kids.
It's a familiar story in sport, though, isn't it? If you look at David Beckham, Tiger Woods, top athletes have always had that level of pressure from their parents, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean...
Are we too soft now?
Yeah, I think it's a conversation to have. I mean, I'm not a big fan of participation medals, to be honest. Like, when I played... tennis, you got a trophy if you won, or you came runner-up, and that was it.
So 128 players at Wimbledon, there's one winner. Are the other 127 losers, in your opinion?
Well, I don't know. I mean, tennis is a bit of a different kind of thing because you're progressing each round. So it's not like, it's first place and then you get placed. It's like if you make the final, I feel like you don't feel like that. You feel a bit disappointed and you feel, a bit underwhelmed, and you know that you was so close to winning the whole tournament. You don't feel like you were the first loser. You feel like you don't feel like you came second. You just feel like, I made the final of the tournament. It's an incredible feat, and I was right there.
You called something last week. I don't know if you remember saying this, but you said just watch Djokovic quietly come through the competition, because all eyes have been on Alcaraz, haven't they, and Sinner. But as you said, here he is again, isn't he? He's just there, and his statistics, as you mentioned, are off the chart.
Yeah, I just think as an athlete that's played and still playing, I think we do underappreciate how good Novak is, and these athletes that retire. We've spoken to some absolute legends up here. Football players that they're gods, and Novak, Nadal, Federer, like we've taken them for granted, and like Novak is 38 years old, and he's beating prime athletes in their 20s, and he's breaking records along the way, and we may never see any player like this ever again.
Give us the numbers again. So you said to me the semi-final statistic for him in his career.
Yeah, he's played, I think, over nearly 80 Grand Slams in his career, and he's made semi-finals 66% of the time, and that's like an insane stat. Yeah. And also, nearly 100 wins at every Grand Slam. Like, these are numbers that we've never seen before. And yesterday he plays against an Italian Caboli who is an incredible talent, loses the first set, doesn't look phased, comes out, destroys him the next 3 sets, and just flies under the radar again. And I'm fortunate enough to have a relationship where we messaged last night. I responded to his story, and he responds back, and I'm just like, man, just enjoy it. Like, I'm telling him to just enjoy it, because like, I think all he thinks about is winning. But I'm just like, dude, you are breaking records still at 38, and we're witnessing it, and it's just, that's not normal.
So 54th semi-final, I think, is that right? The right number?
Yeah,
roughly?
Something for ridiculous like that, 54th semi. Yeah.
And potentially 23rd or 24th title.
25th. He's going for his
25th.
25th.
That's mad, isn't it?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think this is the only thing that he's doesn't have outright. Margaret Court's the only other player with 24 Grand Slams. So he got the gold medal. And I think he does look as good as I've ever seen him. So I strongly believe that he could win the title. But obviously, Sinner is in top form, playing some incredible tennis. But if he gets 25, I really don't understand what more there is left for Novak Djokovic on the tennis court. I think it's just time to lay it all and go enjoy some time with some family.
Many chats with Sinner? Has he ever messaged you?
We've never messaged before. The funny thing is, we actually had a decent relationship.
Yeah.
Like, before it all, I guess the whole went around. But we actually had a fine relationship. We played each other, and we were fine then. And I mean, it was a zoo of a match. It was in Miami. I got game penalty. I got like 3 code violations. Nearly got defaulted. And it's hilarious because I was going absolutely nuts that match. The crowd was like a soccer match, and Sinner was just like sitting so quietly, and I knew that this guy was going to be like good just because he was so firm mentally, didn't get bothered by anything.
Composed and under pressure.
Yeah, just composed, and he just didn't fall for any of my circus theatrics or anything. And we actually had a good relationship. Now we probably won't ever speak a word to each other again, but me and Djokovic are pretty tight.
It's been interesting, being close enough to you to see how people respond to you on DM, having Scott McTominay, Rio Ferdinand, all these guys. Yeah. But is there one that's dropped into your DMs that's caught you off guard?
I mean, there's been some absolute rockets.
Yeah.
But no, like, look, as I said, we've had some. Sometimes I do have to wake up and be like, what is my life? Sometimes, a kid from Canberra having all these amazing guests come up and then come on my show and talk to us, and like, even this is just random, but because we've been having a lot of football guests, like Emmanuel Adebayor is now, we've rekindled our kind of friendship, sending, memes to each other and reels to each other. It's just so weird. Like, it's just strange. Like, I used to play with John Terry on FIFA.
Yeah.
I used to play with Adebayor on FIFA. Like, it's just strange for me that I'm talking to guys like Mike Tyson, and it's weird. Like, it's not normal. But yeah, it's surreal.
What you're doing is putting together a table tennis and paddle league of the future.
Yeah.
For social media.
I mean, we could do a cool pro-am. Like, if we actually get some pros mixed with some of these celebrities and past athletes, here's some pretty good content.
Good man. Right, Nick, we've had some questions, as always, from the good listeners and good viewers on YouTube on this magical bit of equipment in front of us here that doesn't work. One of the questions was about coaching, right? You famously never had a coach, but the name that keeps popping up, we've been asked this a number of times, and thank you for sending these questions, and keep them coming, by the way, on Good Trouble and on talkSPORT's YouTube. Would you like Djokovic to coach you when he finally hangs up his racket?
Well, funny you said that, because when we actually filmed my show, Good Trouble, in Australia, he said that he'd put me on a 6-month training regime, and I said, I would never, ever do that.
Really?
No, I wouldn't.
Why not? Why not?
Because, look...
Because I would love to see what would happen to you, just as a scientific experiment.
Because this is what happens, right? This is what happens. Like, okay, for instance, you look at... Let me give you an example of, me and Tsitsipas for a reason. He's had a better career than I have. He's got more titles, made more money, made more of an I think more of an imprint, with results. But has he had as much fun as Nick Kyrgios? I don't think so. He has had nowhere as much fun. I don't think he's enjoyed himself as much. Throughout his career, I think he's been very strict, and there's two ways to go about it. So you can't have it both ways.
Are there three ways to go about it though? Because the argument, if I was playing devil's advocate, would be
no.
Get your head down for 15 years, and then you've got the rest of your life to have fun. But is the fun the same when you're not in the prime of your life physically?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't. One, I would love to do it. Like, there's a part of me that would love it, and I would understand what would happen if I did do that. But then I'm just like, I would be probably miserable for those 6 months. I'd be miserable, and I enjoy the way I go about my tennis, and I enjoy going about my training sessions and doing all this. Like, no player has really done all of this type of stuff at the same time whilst they're playing, and I really enjoy doing this. So I'm sorry, Novak, but and look,
who would you choose then?
But he beat me in the Wimbledon final. But I've beaten him twice, so it's not like my style of the way I go about it doesn't like it works. Just maybe not on the biggest stage.
Well, who would you take then if you could for the last couple of years? Who would you take on board? What about Andy's done a bit of coaching. He coached Djokovic with
Andy would leave after a week though. He'd be fed up.
No, I think you could find.
No, he would be fed up. Trust me.
Yeah,
He'd be like, get up. I'm like, Andy. like, get out of here. No, I couldn't do it.
Fair play. Nick, I'm really interested to know the detail of what happens after a big final. So you played in the Wimbledon final.
Yep.
And again, crushing disappointment for you, right?
Yep.
But what do you have to do? You have to stay around, or can you just get out, get in a car and disappear?
You unfortunately can't just leave.
Yeah.
But with me, I'm really good friends with all the guys in the locker room, as in like the workers that are there for the 2 weeks. So I told them before the final, I said, have 3 beers on ice for me, like ready, regardless when I win or lose, because I'm coming in here and I'm going to get straight into it, the process of getting absolutely deleted regardless. Yeah. But yeah, it was tough because, you go through the process of receiving your trophy, you come into the locker room, you see your team first, they're there supporting you, giving you hugs, whatever, good effort. And you go in the locker room, crush some beers, and then you just shower and you get ready for the press, the media. You got to go in there, answer questions. And look, for me, I guess I'm a type of player where I'm not probably the worst person to ask, because I'm assuming every other person who's lost in a Grand Slam has been pretty down for like 2-3 days after, where I passed out at 12:30 that night. Like, I went back to the house, I drank, and I went out with my family. My dad was there. We had some shots, and they had to carry me home. I was vomiting by 12:30. I passed out pretty bad. But I guess for me, like, it was a perspective thing. Like, I made the Wimbledon final. It was like, I wasn't supposed to. I feel like that's something that a couple hundred people have ever done in the history of tennis. So for me, it was amazing. But at the same time, like, the process is, you got to do all the right things, and then you just enjoy it with your team.
Does it take time to sink in after that? I mean, again, in the days afterwards, what was that like for you emotionally?
Well, that's honestly the thing about tennis, is because there's tournaments every week, and there's 4 Grand Slams, tournaments every week. You have no time to actually process what you've just achieved. Like, you just made a Wimbledon final. You'd think that you would, have some time to process and have some time off, like an off season, and be like, wow, let's really just celebrate or understand what we just achieved. Where it's like, nah, I had to go train, the week after and get ready for Washington DC. And it's just like, that's what I don't like about tennis. It's like, you're always expected to just show up and just front up again. It's like, oh, you win a Grand Slam, or I go win another one, or we'll go win another tournament. It's like, there's no other sport like it, really.
If you had your time again, though, would you have maybe walked away for a couple of weeks just to process that kind of disappointment or that kind of emotional journey?
Definitely towards the start. In the start of my career, I think I was kind of forced to play a lot more tennis than I wanted to, and it kind of burnt me out and made me have a bit of a bad relationship with tennis, because I should have taken that time away to be with my family and kind of process some of the things I was doing, especially a 19, 20-year-old kid. Like, you throw him into the deep end and play that long. But look, I think I need to get back on the court now. I think I'm taking too much time off.
Get back on. Right, we've got one last question from a viewer, and they asked, if you could tell us one thing about Murray or Djokovic or Federer or Nadal that nobody knows, what can you tell us?
I feel like me and Murray, for a good part of that, like, my career, we were really good friends in the locker room. Like, we would always have debates and like arguments and conversations across the locker room, where everyone would kind of chime in and listen.
What kind of subject would you debate?
Oh, just like tennis things. If someone was, going through, if there was a scandal going on, or just like, something with doping or anything. Like me and him would have a conversation, and I feel like it was fun. Like me, I don't think there was a period of time when me and Andy were actually really, really close.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that time because I didn't get along with many players, but Andy was definitely one of those guys. I mean, Novak now is awesome. He's actually a jokester, like a prankster.
Yeah.
You know, Djokovic is he's like a big kid, to be honest. Like and that's why I think he likes practicing with me, because he remembers that like he's human and this is all a bit of fun. Where he's like, people assume that he's just like super professional, which he is, but well, I can feel when I'm around him, he's just like, he can let his hair down a bit and just like have a bit of fun.
Right, before we leave today, predictions with what's still to come then. Like, we are getting into the business end, so we're watching a game here at the moment. Bencic's Swiatek.
Yeah, she's getting destroyed.
She's getting destroyed, isn't she? So it's looking like some big players in the last few rounds. But what are you thinking? What are your calls?
Well, on the women's side, I mean, obviously with Sabalenka out, leaves a massive opportunity for any of the females left. You know, I thought this one was going to be a little bit closer, to be honest. But judging from how Swiatek's playing, she senses that, you know, this was always the Grand Slam that she was probably likely to win. I mean, like unlikely to win. She's not great on grass. She's never been super comfortable on it. But I mean, with Sabalenka out and Coco out and all these other stars out, she probably knows that this is her best chance to win Wimbledon.
And what about the men then?
The men's is interesting. You know,
Certainly
I just can't ever count out Djokovic. But again, like going up against Sinner, I'd probably give the slight edge to Sinner, to be honest, because, you know, Sinner beat him the last time they played. And, you know, pretty easy straight sets at the French Open. I want Djokovic to win. As a fan, I want Djokovic to win really bad. And I think a lot of the world do. A lot of the world would love to see Djokovic and Alcaraz in the final. But, yeah, I think I'd give a slight edge to Sinner. And then in the other one is Alcaraz and Fritz. And Fritz has been one of the best grass court players the tour has seen probably in the last 2 to 3 years. He always wins titles on grass. It's probably his best surface. So I think he could cause an upset. But, again, it's if Alcaraz decides to be Carlos Alcaraz, the Grand Slam champion, it's going to be extremely hard for Fritz. But
is there something happening in American tennis at the moment, do you think? Because, again, you look back to the Sampras Agassi era, it was a strong time, wasn't it? And in the women's game. But at the moment, do you feel like there's a bit of a resurgence where they're back in it? Yeah,
the American tennis right now is probably at its peak. Obviously, you have Agassi and Sampras in that era where they're dominating, winning Grand Slams. But now they went through a period where they had a lot of good players, but not players that were making deep runs at Grand Slams. They had John Isner, Jack Sock, Sam Querrey, Roddick. Like, they had a good group of guys. Roddick was a little bit older than those guys, but then they went through a period where they were really struggling to find that next guy to knock on the door for a Grand Slam. But now I think, you know, with Fritz, Shelton, Tommy Paul, like these guys, you got good young guys like Mickelson as well that are really knocking on the door. Fritz has been consistent now, Grand Slam final at US Open, and now another semi-final at Wimbledon. And Anna Samova's, she's made a final of a Grand Slam as well. So women's tennis right now in America and men's tennis is as strong as I've ever seen. They've got good depth and they've got Grand Slam champions coming.
Great stuff, Nick. So one last show to do tomorrow.
Yeah, it's sad. I'm sad.
And then so you're heading off back to, where'd you go next?
I'm heading to Bahamas, doing a bit of a training week there, and then
I'd like to train in the Bahamas with you. That sounds all right.
Well, I mean, we've got to get that calf.
Oh, we got to get fixed. Yeah. But the Bahamas to do get the knee back.
Yes.
And then when do we see you on the? What are you aiming for? When would be your return?
Washington D.C.
Right.
That's in like a week, 2 weeks. So
Excellent.
I'll be there.
Good man. Right, Nick. Good effort today.
See you
right,
tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Please do get in touch with comments on YouTube with talkSPORT and Good Trouble. Leave a question for the great man. We'll be back tomorrow. See you then.